بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone tuning in to our regular LMA podcast. Inshallah, today we'll be joined with LMA Secretary Gamel Kheir. Haj Jamal, how are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum everybody. It's been a while, but nice to be back.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've had you on the podcast.
Yeah,
subhanallah.
I've been keeping Murdoch happy, so had to spend my time with Mr. Murdoch a bit.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, over the past fortnight, we've seen several controversies that the community may or may not, have picked up on. So, inshallah, we're going to address a wide range of topics. Yep. We'll start off, inshallah, with the Adhan controversy, and then we'll just, get your thoughts on the Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism, your thoughts on that. And then the third point is the proposed LMA name change, which was a proposal that was sent to LMA members recently. Then we'll give, inshallah, an update on Aman Aged Care, so our residential aged care facility located in Bankstown. And then we'll touch, inshallah, quickly on just Feed the World and the Qurban Adahi and how that went, inshallah. So, I mean, let's start the Adhan controversy. It's been on pretty much almost every mainstream media outlet. It was, I think, at one point last week, 4 days in a row, almost national news, which is a bit absurd. But can you remind the listeners what the issue is, why it's attracted so much attention?
I don't see, to be honest with you, I don't even see where the controversy is. I mean, the irony of, and I've been saying this to our friend Mr. Murdoch and his wonderful right-wing press, they're in the dilemma, not us, because the accusation at our community was that we don't integrate. Social cohesion, that wonderful word. Yet when we started to say, okay, well, we're going to integrate, we're going to apply for a DA, so we go through the rules and the systems that are in place, they jump up and down saying, hey, well, all of a sudden this is a Judo-Christian country. The secularism's gone out the window, the equality's gone out the window, religious toleration's gone out the window. And, I think it's time, and we've been doing it very, very well, I think so, the LMA, calling it out as this is just another form of racism. It's, it's really, to me, it's a wolf a sheep dressed up as a wolf. Yeah, or the other way around. Why can't they just call it out for what it is? This is nothing but racism. The people that are objecting to it don't even live in the LGA of Canterbury Bankstown. Now, my argument to the people is, do we have church bells ringing? Yes, we do. Now, if we're a secular country that doesn't preempt one religion over the other, why are we okay with the church bells ringing? And I put my hands up. I'm okay with it. I love the fact that we have this tolerance of other religions. But why is it okay in the wider hemisphere that we can accept church bells ringing, but we can't accept the Adhan? Now, for people who don't know, the proposal is only for a Friday Jum'ah prayers, and we've shortened it from 15 minutes to 5, and it will not be heard on the average day unless there's a gale blowing, unless you're 50-meter radius from the mosque. And that's caused the controversy. Yep. The irony of it is we own the precinct 50 meters around us. We own the back, the left and the right. We own them. So the only ones we're disturbing is our vacant land. So again, I don't see where that controversy is, other than the fact that it's as soon as the Muslims raise their voice in any way, then we're told to know our place, be quiet, sit down, accept where you are, be thankful that you're here. I've heard that so often now. So to me, it's not a controversy. It's more, to me, it's how tolerant are we as a society that Australia goes at length to tell us is an open, democratic, multicultural, inviting of all cultures and religions. This is a test of how much do we really believe in that concept, or is it just like everything else, hollow?
Yep. And Haj, we know it won't even reach the 5 minutes, right? Like, we're not going to put in a DA for 3 minutes or whatever, but it won't reach the 5 minutes. Yep. That's another point. And I mean, to be quite frank, I live next to a public school, not far from a public school. In the morning bells and the afternoon bells, and it's not just bells. They don't use bells. They use your Katy Perry and Taylor Swift songs. Yeah. You wake up to them, in the morning with reminders and stuff. So local public schools, and we even in the precinct over here, we hear the whatever it is, the bells, the songs, the stuff, from other facilities that are nearby, I mean, that's totally fine. Like, we're talking at 12 p.m., 1 p.m. for 2 to 3 minutes.
But as I said, the test here is when other churches in the area, without naming specifically, because I don't want to demonize them, good on them. I believe in the fact that if you truly believe in this freedom and democratic right, then you should be able to, as long as you're complying with current laws, which we're not saying change the laws. This is the other misconception, as if somehow we are trying to circumnavigate the laws and change them and create this Sharia system. Yeah. We're lodging an application, a DA, through the current process. Yep. And all we're saying is if it meets that criteria, then why should we not be allowed? And I don't think we should be defending ourselves. Yep. We're saying if the DA allows us to, you give us the reasons why we should not be able to. Why should I have to prove anything? If I meet current regulations, then I should not be ashamed and somehow say, well, why do you have to do that? Then you can use the most common one. You've got a watch. Or you've got your phone app. But my point is, I own the land. If I want to build a 2-story house or a 1-story house, that's my prerogative. As long as I follow the DA, then no one has a right to tell me I don't like the design of your house. Well, this is the same concept. I'm allowed to do it as long as the DA allows me to. And racism should not have a role to play in this, but it is, sadly.
Yeah. And Haj, those that are fear-mongering, and a lot of it's actually not even local or from Australia.
None of it is local.
No, a lot of it's not even Australia. Like, you can see all through, X or Twitter and, a lot of it's international. Where does it stop? Next, they want to do it 5 times a day, then 7 days. We're applying for 1 time a week, like to make it very clear. Once a week for 2 to 3 minutes on that Friday afternoon. Yeah. That's it. That's where he stops with us, really.
Yeah, and again, like people tell me, well, the media was saying, well, why do you need it? You don't need it. People know the time to pray and they'll go. I said, but it's not a matter of needing it. It's a matter of we are a multicultural society. We believe that this adds to the cultural blend. It's like saying, well, why do you need to open a falafel shop when we've got a Big Mac down the corner?
Yeah. Why do you need to do an iftar on Wanji Road?
I don't want to eat. Yeah, I want to eat something different. Why can we accept certain parts of cultural difference, but we can't accept others? We're quite happy to eat their food, but we want them to remain silent. And this is, again, I believe it's not a question that we need to answer. It's a question the wider Australian community needs to answer. How tolerant and multicultural are we? This is a test.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
It's on them.
But subhanAllah, it has been blown way out of proportion by the media.
Yeah, well, it doesn't take much for Sky News and Daily Telegraph to jump on and anything to do with Islam at all. It's funny because even if they're not Muslim, they appear to be Muslim. Then it becomes front page news until they realize, oh, it's a Sikh, it's not a Muslim, and then all of a sudden it's just neglected. So look, it comes with the turf. But I'm not going to shy away from the fact that our community is starting to learn to voice itself. Why should we be ashamed of that? We should actually be proud of the fact that this community is starting to mature. It's starting to realize that we can make our voice heard without being controversial within the system itself. Use the system to our advantage. Everyone else does.
Inshallah khair. Inshallah, we'll keep everyone updated, about what takes place with this process.
And if you don't see us, you can just follow the Daily Telegraph or Sky News. I guarantee you, they'll be at Bankstown Council waiting for the decision to be made. So they're more eager than us.
Haj, let's move on a little bit. Overall thoughts on the Royal Commission, on anti-Semitism, and where things currently stand, and maybe some of your views.
Yeah, look. Let's start with the LMA's position. We were quite clear before the commission started that it should have been wider. That you cannot look at anti-Semitism as if it's somehow within a cocoon. And it's in a silo that doesn't have a wider ramification for all of Australia. Anti-Semitism doesn't operate exclusively. It goes along with Islamophobia. It goes along with First Nations people. They experience this racism. The Indians, the Chinese, and the Greeks and the Turks and the Italians before us. I believe the commission, given the amount of money that's been invested in this Royal Commission, the scope should have been way, way wider in terms of looking at what is the cause of racism within Australia. What is the root cause? I mean, we all have our belief system. We all have our opinions. But this would have been a perfect opportunity to dig deep into saying, what are the causes and how do we address those causes? Because we can't mature as a society really until we can answer, why is racism so prevalent? And testimony to that is, look how popular Pauline Hanson is on a racist ticket. Yeah. You know, and people can shy away and blame everything else, and the cost of living and everything else. But at the end of the day, the core message that Pauline Hanson, and now even more increasingly the Liberal Party, are selling their ticket on is how racist and extreme they can be in terms of attacking the migrant community. Yep. And this is not just about Islam. This is about all migrants. You know, if you don't fit the Anglo-Saxon model, you know, going to the pub and eating a meat pie, then you're somehow inferior, and somehow you are an easy target. And this needs to be addressed. And that's our position from the outset. What was more disturbing was when APAN requested to submit their submission to the commission. They were actually rejected.
Oh wow! When was that, Hash?
About a month ago. They requested to be able to address the commission, and they were rejected.
Okay.
So this is this leads to a bigger picture. You know, the point is, are we just sugarcoating by saying, "Oh, look, Bondi happened. We're addressing it by having this commission." It's a very expensive exercise, and at the end of the day, we don't actually advance anything other than strengthening the one community's power against the rest of us. Or do we address all forms of racism? And the Palestinians have been brutalized more than any other nation on earth, I would say. So surely they have a right to address the commission and say, well, hold on, don't forget us. We're the weaker power in this so-called war. And then why can't we look at wider issues? Why can't we look at the issue of Islamophobia? Because statistically, it is far more prevalent than anti-Semitism is. Why can't we look at these things? So I'm concerned where it's heading. My concern really is that it's heading into a situation where we are going to have more and more legislation aimed at reducing our freedoms. And I think the end result of this, God forbid, will be the Commissioner providing some recommendations to the government in terms of curtailing more freedoms in how you express your dissatisfaction with the Zionist state. And if that happens, then we're all losers, because it doesn't stop at one. Today it's the Zionist cause. Tomorrow it could be something else. But we don't believe in government. This leads, again, all these lead to bigger stories, because we believe in the right of free speech, and you can't have free speech on some subjects and not on other topics. So either we believe in the concept of free speech, as long as it doesn't actually cause physical harm, or we don't. And then if we don't, then we're going down the dangerous road of everything being curtailed, and you can't say anything about anyone. Yep. That's my fear, that it is going down the path of very restrictive freedoms.
Yep. Inshallah, we'll go into a bit more details next month when we get the chance to have a discussion with the Special Envoy to combat Islamophobia, inshallah. So we'll go into a bit of details on that.
We've been very closely aligned with the Islamophobic envoy. We are going to have him in July.
Inshallah.
So and I'd love to see what his outcome, more importantly, his discussion points with not only the government but other communities, because the bonus that we have with the envoy is that he's been able to communicate with the non-Muslim community.
Yep.
And it'll be very interesting to see how that dynamic is. How are we seen by the wider community? Is our point of view, in the sense that we believe that we the Muslim community, in terms of Islamophobia, has been neglected and rejected?
Yep.
Is that something that the wider community sees? It's be very interesting to see what his position is.
Inshallah. Hash, let's move on, to a topic that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
It was a proposal that was sent to LMA members. And it's pretty much public at this point. We've seen it pop up numerous places. So it's one of the biggest organizational discussions currently taking place, within the LMA, and it's the proposed LMA name change. So You know, do you want to go into a little bit of details about that and what the proposal is?
Let me start by saying that it's really at the moment it's really trying to trigger a conversation, a bigger, deeper conversation. If you remember when we started the podcast, I was talking about us as a society and a community, wider community, have to start having these deep and meaningful conversations within ourselves. You know, how do we see our organizations being in 10, 15, 20 years down the future?
Yep.
How do they reflect? And the dilemma, the LMA uniquely here out of all the organizations has this unique dilemma. Mm-hmm. And we're very sensitive to that dilemma. Yeah. How do you honor the traditions of your past, your heritage, your forefathers? In my case, my father. Yeah. Who was very instrumental in the building of the LMA and the mosque. How do you honor that and keep the elders in our community happy while not losing focus of the fact that you can't be stagnant? You can't just say, look, we were Lebanese, you know, holding our line in the sand. Lebanese are Muslims as well. We were defiantly Lebanese. That doesn't work with our kids. And we've seen our kids leave the LMA, not because of the name, but because I believe the LMA had become intransigent it wouldn't move with the times. It held on to its, sometimes your history and your culture could be your setback because you're stuck in that rut and you believe that in everything that came in the past and you don't move in the future. And we've seen bigger organizations than us, like Kodak, Nokia, who believed in their past and this heritage and this legacy that they were dominant once. They didn't have to do anything and they just by the by. Now, I don't want that to happen to this place. And it's not about changing the name. It's a question that I want to pose to our community. What do we see our organizations looking like? Yeah. You know, does the LMA, and this is the question, does the LMA represent only the Lebanese community or does it represent the wider Australian community? And with all respect to everybody, I believe I'm the best to answer this because when I go up on media, I never say, I'm a spokesperson for the Lebanese people only. Yeah. So don't ask me about what's happening in Palestine. Don't ask me what's happening in Rwanda. Don't ask me what's happening in Sudan. Don't ask me what's happening in Syria. Mm-hmm. We are Muslims, first and foremost. And I believe that the process has to be where we somehow move to the name itself. Just the name itself encompasses the fact that this organisation speaks on behalf of the Australian Muslim community. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the driver, that we don't want to lose our heritage. Can I make it clear? We are not getting rid of the name LMA. LMA will remain Lakemba. If you like, LMA will remain the New South Wales branch. Yep. But the AMA becomes a national brand that you can take around everywhere and say, we represent the Australian Muslim community. Because now we've got mosques in Melbourne and Adelaide. How do you represent those communities who are not predominantly Lebanese? Yep. So these things we have to look at. Like, you know, we're going to talk about the aged care. The aged care won't have only Lebanese in there.
And it doesn't.
Yeah. So what do we do there?
Yeah.
You know, do we represent other than Lebanese? Clearly we do. I mean, our mosque is predominantly Southeast Asian now, people in our community who come and pray at the mosque. And I love that fact, but how do we reflect them? And how do we reflect the heritage? And I don't have the answer. That's why the whole idea of the motion was to trigger people's emotion and start to get involved, because the only way we can come to an answer at the end is collectively what the community wants. Yep. If the community as a collective believes the LMA is historically always been the prime organisation and we don't want to lose it, so be it. Mm-hmm. We go with the majority. But if the community believes that we now should be encompassing Australians, because we are, at the end of the day, Australians first and foremost.
It's the common factor between all of us Muslims, you know, living in Australia.
And we are an Australian organisation. You know, we're not, with all due respect to Lebanon and the Lebanese, we are not a Lebanese organisation. We are an Australian organisation made up of Lebanese heritage. Mm-hmm. But we are an Australian organisation. And the name, the current name, as much as I love it, where does it reflect Australia? You know, there's no name, there's no reference to Australia. But the more important question, Khalid, I believe, is name me any other organisation, religious organisation, that is named on their heritage only. You know, I don't mind. I'll mention them. Beit al-Islam, predominantly Lebanese, bought by the Lebanese, but it's called Beit al-Islam Australia. It's not called Beit al-Islam Lebanon. You know, and I can give you so many of these examples. It's not to say that the heritage should be rejected and we throw it away. It's how do we respect that heritage but move towards the future to encompass more of the wider community which we all want to serve. Because I want to serve the Muslim community. I'll be honest. I don't want to serve just the Lebanese community. As much as I love my heritage, I see the role of the LMA as being the grandfather of all the Muslims in Australia. That's the best way I can put it. Yeah. Yes, I'm a Lebanese grandfather, but they're all my kids. And the LMA would love to be able to say, we represent all Australian Muslims of all the different nations and cultures that there are. And I think that name should reflect what your aim is. And that's what I'm saying. That's a question that I don't have the answer for. I'm hoping the community comes back to us and says, yes, we believe in that. Yes, we do. Or no, we don't. Or we believe this is a more direct answer. Maybe we're not ready for that now. This is the point. It's emotion only.
It's a discussion that's been opened, inshallah, and there's obviously the internal factor with the current members. There's the external factor to do, our research and see whether the wider Muslim community will feel more included, or it will feel like the name will be more like inclusive were it to change. And it's just the start of opening that discussion and potentially reflecting your work, our work a little bit more. But
well, I mean, look, a couple of things we have to be honest about. When we go overseas and we say we represent the Muslim community in Australia, and that we say we're the Lebanese Muslim Association, we have a very hard sell. People actually say, are you actually a Lebanese organisation or are you an Australian organisation? When I talk to the media, funny enough, the media says to me, they said, are you registered in Australia or in Lebanon? I said, no, we're an Australian company. They go, well, why is your name Lebanese Muslim Association? And it's not denouncing the fact that we're Lebanese Muslim. I want to make that clear. I'm not that I'm ashamed to be a Lebanese Muslim. But I don't think that's my main concern right now. My main concern right now is respecting the heritage, but somehow encompassing all of the Australians. Look, when we get picked on, Mr. Murdoch again, when Mr. Murdoch decides he wants to have an attack at the Muslim community, does he specify the culture, the religion, or does he specify the country they're from? The religion. So, like it or not, we're all in this together. And we all either learn to say we're going to swim together so that way we have protection, just like fish do. They swim together so they can all protect each other against the sharks. Or we all go out on our own little and we all hope for the best and do dua that the shark doesn't get us first. This is what the wider, especially the Murdochs of this world, they want to divide us into little enclaves. We've got to fight against that. We have to say the only chance we have, being 3% of the population in Australia, is to unite. And we need a name that unites us. That's my personal belief. This is not a board belief. This is just my personal belief. We need something that unites all of us. And the unique thing about the LMA, and I keep on saying it, is how do you do that while preserving the heritage of the LMA? Because I don't want to be the one that says, on my watch, LMA became extinct. This is the question. So that's why we said it's a motion. We could have passed it at the board. But this is not a board decision, with all due respect to the board. This is something that all of us as a community have to decide on. Do we see the LMA being exclusively what it is at the moment? Or do we see the LMA being our organisation that we're proud of and it represents all communities? Only the community can answer that. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping people who are listening will give us feedback. Do you believe in the name remaining as it is, as a heritage to our forefathers? Do you believe that it should encompass more than just the Lebanese Muslims? In its name we're talking about here, just in its name. Because we want a name that covers all of us. Because at the end of the day, we're all Australian Muslims, nothing else. That's all that matters, really.
Inshallah khair, inshallah. It's something that's been proposed, something that there's going to be a lot of consultation, a lot of feedback taken from the Muslim community, from the Lebanese community, from the wider community.
The Lebanese community has been very passionate, rightfully.
One of the views that they can also
also comment in their thoughts in the comments section.
That's what I'm hoping they do. Please, I honestly do. I want whoever's listening to comment. We need community feedback in terms of the look and the point. I know the focus today is about the name, but the real concern for us is how do we see our community, our organizations looking like in 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
What do we give our kids? Do we give them fractured organizations with checkered histories, with brands that really, people have to think twice about, or do we give them something that we today are proud of, and they can take it to another level? These are the deep meaningfuls that I said that we started off with. So the name is just a precursor for something way bigger. It's not that we believe, I'm not that naive to say, I'll change it to the Australian Muslim Association and hallelujah, we fixed our problems. Life is merry again. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not that naive. But part of the question this board is saying is we need radical change if we are going to advance our community into the next generation and the generation after that. Otherwise, sadly, what's happening is our kids are leaving the mainstream Muslim mosques in droves. Mm-hmm. And sadly, the driver of that has been that we don't want to follow any nationalistic brand. Mm-hmm. Now, that's shallow. That's very shallow because, it's not that you should be ashamed of your nation or your culture. But that's been the driver of these youth. These youth have been told, reject anything to do with nationalism. Yep. So we're losing our kids. Now, we need to be able to, I want to see the LMA, whatever name it becomes, whether it stays the same or changes, I want it to be something that all of us collectively are so proud of because it's gone into aged care, youth services, drug rehabilitation. These are the dreams of this organisation. But part of that is the name, and more importantly is what do we see these organisations looking like? They can't be associations. Let me start there. Yeah. My belief. The old word, the Arabic word called jam'iyyat. Associations where there, a couple of friends around the card table, and they organise a welfare organisation, and they say, "Yeah, I've started another organisation." Is that what we want it to be in 20, 30 years, or do we have this dream of them looking more like? Let me give you an example. Please, there's only an example. Something like St. Vincent's, something like what's the other one? The
Anglicare,
the Anglican Church. That model,
Salvation Army.
Yeah. I'm talking about model-wise. Is that something we want? And I think that's something we do need because they can offer the full range of services using government support in order to provide all the services, whether that be domestic violence, whether that be drug rehabilitation, whether that be new Muslims that enter this country. We're able to offer them everything. This is the dream, I believe, of major organizations should be, that we are a starting point and an end point for all our community. So a starting point when they come into this country and an end point when they leave this world. We should be able to offer the services in all their mixed glories. And that's my opinion. What I'm saying is I'd love to see what community believes. Does it believe in the old traditional model, or do we need to start moving to more corporate, commercial, professionalized, accountable, that sort of organization? And it's moving away from associations more into corporate, because you're being totally accountable to your shareholders, which is our community. That's the model that I wish we'd go down. That's my personal belief.
And Haj, in terms of our organizational structure and services and, aspects like that, a lot of it's actually already moved towards that. If you look at it, you've got your religious services, which a lot of people see, through Lakemba Mosque. But when you look at the social services and, the health-related initiatives that we run and, all the young professionals that we employ, the youth refugee programs, going out to schools, we've got social workers, psychologists, you've got your up-and-coming teachers, you've got people that are just starting, those that are older.
College,
we've got a Sharia college, we can potentially dietitians, that are available, and it's that are running community programs. So we've already kind of, we've
started that.
You've
process.
got that aspect already, well and truly running.
That's the point. Now, to its credit, people don't people don't really appreciate how much the LMA does for community. Like you just named some of them, and we haven't even exhausted them. We didn't talk about funeral services. We didn't talk about where we offer free funerals for people who don't have the funds to bury their loved ones. Yeah,
which is also a misconception, Haj. I think we need to do a very just clear standalone post about that, because a lot of people don't even cover the funds for. I mean, ever since I've been here for about 8 years or so, any person that hasn't had the funds has been covered by the LMA.
Yeah. Look, we do roughly 30 destitute burials a year. We don't. I mean, it's not about praising yourself, and this is the point. It's not about me coming on and saying, "Look how wonderful my organisation is. Hey, let's all celebrate." The point is, this organisation does it on a shoestring budget. Doesn't get a lot of grants from government, even though the fallacy is that we're loaded to the cows with for funds from government. We don't. We do everything on a shoestring, but the need is there. The need that we want to offer services to the community is there. Again, this is on behalf of the board. What we envisage is, rather than doing it ad hoc, where our need is there, but we don't have the facilities and the services to offer to do. Like for yourself, Khalid, let's use you as the perfect example. You would love to do drug rehabilitation because it's people may want to deny it, but it is the most predominant issue we have in our community at the moment.
Yep.
But we can't offer that service. Yet we are now 4th generation Lebanese Muslims. Yep. Yet we still don't have any drug rehab. We're barely getting an aged care centre to the stage where it can be full.
Yeah.
These are the questions I'm talking about. These are the questions we need to have. We can all bury our head in the sand and whinge and whine about how crappy the LMA is and all the other organisations are, but do nothing about it. What I'm saying is, we collectively own these organisations. We need to invest in them in terms of being able to get them from being, ad hoc run organisations to real corporate structured organisations who have a full chain of command, who have facilities across the country to offer. Because look, drug issues are not uniquely Lakemba or Sydney. Melbourne and Adelaide have the same issues with our Muslim community. So people who say that LMA was in New South Wales, why did you go out of state? Well, I'm sad to have to break this news. There are Muslims that in Victoria and and Adelaide. We are the oldest organisation. So why can't we perfect the system that we're doing at the moment in a corporate way and then duplicate that in every state? You can't do it the way we are.
I'm going to go through maybe some of the comments, just some of the points raised.
Yep.
So one of the Hajj from the community, may Allah reward him, he says, the LMA services all walks of life now. Why should we change? So that's one of the common sentiments. Others, one of the sisters or brothers, mentioned about maybe not so much on the name change, but maybe try and get diversity with the required skills, the skill set that our community needs through the organisation. Also the Hajj touch base on, if the constitution is going to remain the same, does it defeat the purpose, with the name changing? We've got some brothers that, like the idea, alhamdulillah, some brothers that want it to be inclusive. So, inshallah, we want this discussion on an even bigger scale, inshallah.
And this is the point. This is like that one moment in life where everything then will change from here on. This is what we wanted it to be. This is what I said. This is why we put it as a motion, because we wanted that sentiment to start flowing, where people feel this need to be invested in an organisation. Now, as I said, I have a preference, but I'm just one person in a preference. And the beauty of this organisation, even for all its checkered history, if I can call it checkered history, and all its current issues, the most beautiful thing about this organisation is that a board is elected and can be easily removed. And all the changes that we're talking about today cannot be just passed by one person clicking his fingers and saying, I decided I want to change the name today. It has to go through this whole process. It's accountable to the community. Yes, at the moment, it's restricted to the Lebanese. We acknowledge that, the Constitution. But, I see merits in that. I genuinely do. I honestly do. And I know it's controversial, but I do see merit in that, because that's how you acknowledge your heritage.
Yep.
The Lebanese who came here first, we have to acknowledge the fact that they built this place. It was their blood, sweat, tears, money that built this place. So you can't just say, oh, well, we deny our Lebanese heritage, it's restrictive.
Definitely.
You want to protect that. You want to protect that legacy. I acknowledge that. I wasn't at the beginning, but I've come across to that. I really have. Because I think you do need to pay homage to your elders. And you can't let it go and say, okay, well, we're all one, hallelujah, let's just let it go and hope for the best. No, I think the compromise would be right now that the name is if we change the name, it's a more encompassing name, so more people feel involved.
Hajj linguistics and language, just from evidence and research, is very important. And just a name change, even though it might just be a name change, in terms of how it impacts people, and
I've seen
how it allows them to be involved, and just giving them the encouragement to be involved,
and that's the
it
point.
Could make a major change.
100%.
We know linguistics it's a whole study of itself.
And to me, as I said, we're not naive to say the name change is going to solve the problems. But the name change gives a starting point. It's like flickering a light back on again. So this is like, to me, the way I see it, the LMA has been a sleeping beast for a while. This may be the trigger that gets it back and alive, and then something we can move it to the next level, become a nationalized brand that offers a full range of suites of services that are to the community. It's not let me remind people, this is a not-for-profit organization. It's nothing that this Jam'iyya currently makes goes into any form of profit. It's all been invested back into community. And testimony to that is the aged care center, which has cost us over $22 million. It's not as if we went, I know the rumor is that we go raising funds from everyone and that we keep on hoarding this money, and then, we got safes under the ground full of money. The Jam'iyya spent 22 million of hard-earned money without going to community to provide a service to the community. The aged care. I know we're going to talk about it, but that's something that goes rejected. We went and purchased mosques. We didn't ask people to fund those mosques. We purchased in Adelaide and Melbourne for a reason. The reason is not so we can become high and mighty, and I can sugarcoat myself and say what a wonderful secretary I've been. There's a vision. There is truly a vision to turn this into a national brand. Maybe part of that is that you change the name to reflect that vision. That's all I'm saying. That's my point of view. That the name maybe should be a better reflector of what your vision is, not today, but for 20 years down the line.
Yeah. And Hajj, despite, mashallah, all the programs that we run, and say you mentioned the different grants that we've got, that we do in terms of youth and stuff, but we know like the needs assessment that we do with the community almost every second year or so shows that there's a major need for a lot more scaling up in terms 100%. Of the work that we do.
Correct.
So some people might be satisfied, but once you're in the space and you see the needs that are coming through the door, every day on 100%. A daily basis, and you can service some. But then there's a pretty big cohort that you're not able to service, that you need to scale up and make some changes to be able to service.
And like testimony to that, sadly, we had the two boys and the mother that lost their life. This is an indictment on all of us. And I say this sincerely. It is an indictment on all of us, because, we can't say we're LMA, the ones that died, Allah yarhamun, they're not Lebanese, so it's not our concern. But even if they were Lebanese, there are domestic violence in Lebanese communities.
And we've been lobbying for almost 2 years in terms of the DV, the evidence that we've got within a specific, community that isn't Lebanese. And it's always been pushed back because you're the Lebanese Muslim.
And that's my point. My point, this is exactly what I was trying to get to. Allah barik fik, Haj Khalid. See, whenever you go to government and say, look, we like Khalid, in all honesty, have you ever gone to government and said, we as the Lebanese need this? It's always been, we, the Muslim community, need this. I know I have. Every time I've gone to a government asking for a funding process, it's we, the Muslim community, needs X.
Even if it's to support others, not necessarily, us going there for our organization.
But that's my point.
It's always
my point
Muslim,
is the government views us, believe it or not, they view us as Muslims, Australians. They don't see us as Bangladeshis, Lebanese. They don't see it. The Australian government doesn't see us as ethnic in diversity that way. They see us as, it's a Muslim community. How do we service the Muslim community? So, testimony to that, as I said, Allah yarhamud, there was those three, that this is an indictment on all of us as organizations, that we didn't even if Allah yarhamun, really, it breaks your heart. Even if we were told about it, what could we have done? We don't have the services. The best we could have done is called police.
Referrals.
Yeah, but our point is, the dream for us is that we can offer those services. We would have a women's welfare housing or emergency housing that they called us. We could arrange immediately to get someone to pick them up, put them in emergency housing. That is something that is not a wish list. That is something we have to do. This is, I would say, fard on all of us to be able to ensure the Muslim community feels safe. And where the need is there, they don't have to go to non-Muslim organizations to get that need. We can offer that need. And it takes a lot of brave decisions to be made.
Inshallah, and I mean, a lot of the points that we just, raised up are just, discussions, general discussions that have taken place around us. Inshallah, this is an opening for that discussion. Again, just to summarize, it is a proposal. We are going to seek members' feedback, community feedback, inshallah. And see where this goes, and try to remain as objective as possible
100%.
for the betterment of the community.
And I assure everyone that's listening, it won't be happening immediately.